Hey, welcome to Funny Synth Noises, where I talk about the things that interest me, and you tolerate it for however long you can. Everyone loves a good one-hit wonder, or a band with a few songs that charted high and haven't seen the light of day in decades. That pretty much describes my music taste. Yeah, in a lot of cases it's completely understandable why these bands have fallen off, but isn't music just one big pile of subjectivity? One man's potentially questionable collection of instruments and busted vocals is another man's beloved yet still potentially questionable collection of instruments and busted vocals. One of these bands that rose to fame and fell off ingloriously in the same year happens to be one of my favorite bands ever. They may only have one or two songs people remember, and only people from the UK at that, but they're a genuinely interesting act with good music that has been overlooked. Today, I want to talk about Red Box. Their entire history, more or less. Give a brief introduction to their music, tell some stories and see what the band is up to these days, revel in the glory of this neglected act. Hope of being as faithful as I can to the actual series of events in their story. But in order to do all that, we have to travel back in time.
Heart of the sun, circular wall, you're never gonna die.
The year was 1979. A group of friends met at the Polytechnic of Central London and formed a band. They did a few gigs at the college and started writing their own music with the intent to record it. They met the producer Phil Brown, who offered them free studio time, and they began recording demos. But the band still didn't have a name, and lead singer and main man Simon Toulson-Clarke wasn't making it easy. The names being tossed out didn't work. The list pinned on the wall, none of them good. Until it was. The following is a roughly guessed, because sources vary, panning out of the scenario.
Or mate, if someone pointed to the things in this room like a camera or a lamp or my dirty socks, you would say it was a rubbish band name.
Actually, I think that Red Box over there is pretty cool. Too bad none of you suggested it earlier. I would have chosen it. Get wrecked.
As the pain finally enters.
What did satisfy the critical Simon? The red flight case left behind by Slade. You know, that band who did the Christmas song that one time? They performed a while back, and, in the rush of packing all the equipment up, neglected the box. Simon was told to keep it by the band's manager, and the fledgling, unnamed band had acquired some new equipment. Not only that, they had acquired a new name. Cool band name, Red Box. In addition to influence by artists like T-Rex and David Bowie, Simon and his songwriting partner Julian Close were partial to world music records, especially that of Buffy Sainte-Marie, the iconic indigenous artist. In the early days of Red Box, the band found themselves almost emulating the sounds of their favorite bands, but as they began to write and record their own music, it morphed into a more unique sound. Simon's method of composing consisted of acoustic guitar with random vocalizations over it, a la Peter Gabriel, but the difference was Simon actually kept his vocalizing in the music and worked it into the song, building the nonsense into something that made sense. That's how we ended up with their debut single, Chenko, in all of its strange chorus's glory. The recording was self-financed, and the first place Red Box went to get Chenko produced was Cherry Red Record. It didn't break the top 40 in the UK, but had enough airplay to get some attention. Red Box moved to Sire to record a full album. Their third single was Lean On Me, Ali Ayo, and boy did the band lean on it. It made it to number 3 in the UK, and charted in other countries. Although other records prevented them from getting to number 1 in their native country, they made it on top of the pops, and that's an achievement in its own self, poorly lip-syncing to your big hit for a fake studio audience. It sold over 250,000 copies. The music video is perhaps notable in its usage of a British Sign Language interpreter green-screened over the video.
It's a phonetic. It was a sound that when we were originally demoing the song, at home, at that stage, we don't sing words at that stage, we just sing sounds, and it was the sound of that word, Ali Ayo, and we decided that should be the phonetic, if you like, the word of communication. The song is about words and the written word and the spoken word. So it was just a link. It was a phonetic, really.
If you get a decently sized hit, the obvious next choice is to record an album. 1986 saw the drop of The Circle in the Square. It was world music like the world had never seen before. Random vocalization, chanting, varied instruments, Buffy Sainte-Marie cover, lyrical references to colonization and exploration, and probably none of it featuring actual native artists. This was the UK in 1986. Things were different then or something. It still offered an idea of introducing various cultures into the modern music scene, as was happening at the time. Did, say, Peter Gabriel and Paul Simon use diverse influences better? I won't speak on that. Of course, people didn't seem to understand Red Box. They weren't established artists who could get away with a left-field release. This was their first album, and in the largely homogenous United Kingdom, it wasn't the most conventional approach. Warner Brothers wasn't thrilled either. This weird band who wants to change the world just dropped an album that doesn't fit the pop scene at the time. Why should we invest in them? They hadn't broken America either, a large, untapped audience who would surely give Red Box a boost if they enjoyed the music. So write a song for America, they said, and Simon kindly delivered. Can you guess what the song was called? Yep, For America, a satirical punch at my wonderful homeland, still featuring the random vocalizations and now starring a saccharine sound that's way too happy, given the jabs at the country the band couldn't break. To make things even funnier, the song didn't perform well in America, so that didn't make the record company happy. Their attempt to be helpful to Red Box was overlooked by the stubborn Simon, who was perfectly content making the music he wanted to make, thank you very much. The tensions began to rise, further amplified by For America, and almost nobody was happy with the direction Red Box wanted to take. Simon couldn't take it anymore. The only thing he did take was his boat to sail around Europe for a few years. Still, he kept writing songs, and in the late 80s, found a new label to record. Although, right before that, the B-side of Heart of the Sun was released as Enjoy under the name Solid Gold Easy Amex. Just had to throw that in there.
I've degraded myself. And I will never ever wear something like this again.
East West let Simon and a new group of musicians work on what would be the second Red Box album. The first single from Motive, Train, was received well, and it was pulled from shelves for a reason still unknown to the band. To make matters worse, Motive was released without the band's permission, and to them, prematurely. Simon felt angry that the things that defined earlier Red Box, tribal chants, world music influence, and having more creative authority, were missing from Motive. The animosity towards the record label signaled the end of the band. Everyone went off to do their own thing. I do want to give this time to acknowledge Motive on its own. Perhaps you can see where it might be unfinished, and it's apparent that's a completely different sound than the circle and the square against the band's will, but it holds up very well. It takes a more streamlined approach with its overall focus on movement, using strings and horns and carefully chosen percussion to drive in the new era of Red Box. It's my favorite Red Box album, containing my favorite song of theirs, Hungry, and I suggest you listen to it after watching this video. A few years after the Motive disaster, Simon was invited back to East West to write for other artists. He co-wrote and/or played for the likes of Miguel Buzet, The Vulgar Boatman, and Kat Goskovich's Billy Rain project, among others, and often uncredited. Writing for other people made him think back to the Red Box days and think about what he could have done differently. It made him realize that he still wanted to create music on his own terms. The less educated Red Box fan might assume that, after Motive, it would take 2 decades for the next Red Box release. In actuality, the often neglected 1997 project SPA dropped in between. The acronym stood for the first names of the people involved: Simon, Alistair Gavin, and Phil Brown. The eponymous release was a concept album to the American comedian Bill Hicks, who had passed away a couple years earlier. SPA was significantly more experimental than the original Red Box releases, although not necessarily in an inaccessible way. It focused on spoken word samples from movies and Bill Hicks, interspersed between lush instrumentals and sound effects. Promotion appears to have been minimal, with the only marketing being a postcard and the obvious physical CDs, which for a long time was likely the only way to listen to the album before I uploaded it to YouTube a few summers ago. It saw a reissue in 2004. For one reason or another, it is forgotten in the Red Box canon, despite being a notable part of their history. After SPA, all was quiet until 2003. Simon assembled a new crew under the title Plenty. Their first, and maybe only recording with the name, was Might As Well Go Home for the British, technically a stoner comedy saving grace. I watched the movie with Shazam open at my side, and was unable to discern the song from the rest of the music, and I wasn't going to pay $10 for the soundtrack CD, so I could not tell you what it sounds like. The movie, though, actually not all that bad. Plenty folded, but it wasn't the end for Simon. Rather the opposite, actually. Redbox was back and better than ever, writing music and releasing an album called Plenty in 2010. Real creative name. The album showed a new side of Redbox, leaning towards acoustics and a more subdued sound. There was a focus on live music, with live musicians, and a collaborative effort between band members. It had an overall theme of love, with songs like Brighter Blue and Hurricane at the forefront of the album. It ushered in a new decade of the band, and a sound that would stick for the next 10+ years. The Poles liked it a lot, and the singles charted pretty high over there. The Plenty Sessions EP was included in a 2-CD release and digitally. It contained 2 covers, one of which was another Buffy St. Marie song.
Say something about this song. I think, as a general rule, Red Box have not been known for writing songs that have a kind of erotic subtext. But I'm not going to say too much about this, but I think this song does, and I want to thank my wife for that. You know, for years I had myself to thank, but.
A new album was teased over the years, but in true Redbox fashion, it kept being postponed. Not that it was a bad thing, as the band took great care in choosing what would show up on the final project, so it would naturally be a longer process to release the album. At least, Chase the Setting Sun came out in 2019 and not a year later, you know. Sound-wise, it was a lot more sonorous than its predecessor, and the upbeat music felt reminiscent of the debut 1986 album. Thematically, it focused on love, happiness, and togetherness, and included another Buffy St. Marie cover, along with some energetic singles and mellower album tracks. You can find lyrics and music videos for all the songs on the band's YouTube channel.
Even if you feel it, you are not alone. Every rolling stone talking about tomorrow, we'll be on the run. Chase the setting.
In early 2023, we inexplicably got new music. Wait For You is, as of December 2023, the most recent Redbox release. I have no idea if it's a one-off single, or a hint at a new album, or EP, or compilation, or what, but I'm not complaining. You shouldn't either. Stream Wait For You for clear skin, or less wrinkled skin, or whatever kind of skin that you at your age need.
Somewhere down the line, there'll come a time, a planet's alive. I know you can feel it.
These days, Redbox mostly plays at festivals or concerts in Europe, especially in the UK and Poland, where their fan base is the most prominent. At the moment, there is no news about new music. Well, there's a cryptic Facebook post from a few months ago, but I don't know what that means. With that, we leave off at the end of the Redbox story. For now. Now, you've heard of a little band called Redbox. A little band that slipped through the cracks 40 years ago, but holds up today and still makes great music. I hold them near and dear to my heart, and hope you enjoyed me sharing their history with you. Please leave some comments about Redbox if you desire. I love talking to people with similar music tastes, or responding to the haters with really unfunny quips. Like and subscribe and all that jazz. And I'll see you another time.